This is a Mobius strip. It's a very important shape in math because it's a one-sided surface. All you have to do to make it is take a long rectangular strip, twist one end 180 degrees, and attach the ends together. To prove to you that it only has one surface, you can take a marker and draw a straight line down the middle. Okay, not very straight at all, and neither is this line, but you'll see that we ended up right back where we started and the marker touched both sides without ever leaving the paper because they're the same side. But here's something even crazier. Look what happens if I try to cut this down the center. You end up with one super long strip, and you'll see that there's multiple twists in this, so it's no longer a Mobius strip. But what do you think would happen if instead I cut it a little bit off center, about a third of the way into the edge? You end up with this. Two separate strips interlocking with each other.
Let's do a paradox speed round then. This page is intentionally left blank. The Socrates paradox notices that if you have a heap of sand and remove it one grain at a time, eventually you won't have a heap. So can a single grain of sand make the difference between a heap and a non-heap? What would happen if Pinocchio said, "My nose grows now"? It can grow if and only if it doesn't grow. It's a version of the liar's paradox, which is this statement is a lie. Interestingly, the Pinocchio paradox was came up with in 2001 by an 11-year-old girl. Pops explained the liar's paradox to her and her older brother and told them to come up with their own version, and she did within minutes. An interesting numbers paradox, the first number you can come up with that is boring instead of interesting becomes interesting because of that fact. Friendship paradox finds that people on average have fewer friends than their friends have. That's because a person with a lot of friends is more likely to have you in their friend group than you are to be in theirs. Same thing's true for your sexual partners. My favorite version of the omnipotence paradox is, can God microwave a burrito so hot that he can't even eat it? What's your favorite paradox?
This will convince you that your eyes lie to you. Here we have some traffic lights or stoplights. I've put a cyan filter over them now. Now red light can't pass through a cyan filter, yet you're still seeing the red light, right? Well, I can guarantee you that there is no red light there at all. There's no red at all. It's your brain working overtime convincing you of the red. Can I prove it? Well, I can try. Let's block out the rest of the traffic lights. Now look, it was grey all along. There is no red. If you enjoy these, please like, share or comment, and I'll make some more soon.
Imagine being able to stop your heart from pumping blood on demand. That's exactly what Indian yogi Swamirama did in a room full of scientists and doctors while hooked up to an EKG machine. At one point, his heart rate went to 0 and stayed there for 30 seconds. One of the people in the room, Dr. Elmer Green, was shocked. Under closer examination, he realized that Rama hadn't stopped his heart from beating. He increased his heart rate to 300 beats per minute. When the heart beats this fast, blood can't move through its chambers. It's a medical condition called atrial flutter, which usually results in cardiac arrest or death. Swamirama was completely unaffected. He went on to demonstrate a variety of body control exercises that completely stunned the scientific community. So how did he do it? Swami began practicing breathing and meditation techniques at the age of 3. Over the course of his life, he mastered these techniques and proved there's so much we don't know about the human body. What we do know is these techniques of meditation and breathwork are extremely powerful. And this is what we explore on this page.
Tell me you are small without telling me.
So it'd take over 60 trillion people to fill up the Grand Canyon, and there's only about 7.7 billion of us on Earth. Now, over 1 million Earths could fit in the sun, and the largest known star, Stephenson 218, has a volume of roughly 10 billion suns. And there's anywhere from 200 to 400 billion stars in our own galaxy, the Milky Way, of which each star is spaced out roughly 5 light years apart. Now, 1 light year is equivalent to about 6 trillion miles, and our galaxy itself is about 100,000 light years side to side, so it's 100,000 times 6 trillion miles in diameter. But the Milky Way isn't the only galaxy. It's far from it, actually. The Hubble Space Telescope took a picture of over 3,000 galaxies, all within a region of the sky about the size of a pinhead held at arm's length. So with that, along with other deep field images that have been taken, it's concluded that there's at least hundreds of billions of other galaxies in the universe, with some estimates being as high as a couple trillion. And you know, that's just within the observable universe, what we can actually see, but there's no telling how big the universe actually is, because anything beyond our observable horizon is just so far away that light physically hasn't had enough time to reach us yet. Anyway, so you got cut off in traffic today? That is so annoying.
With enough data, we can synthesize human speech through a piano. Check this out.
Responsible for saving and protecting our mother earth.
Let me show you how this works. A speaker, much like the one you're listening to this through now, is a fairly high-resolution medium. It's able to accurately reproduce the temporal, timbral, harmonic, and frequency information in the recorded performance. A piano, by contrast, is a very low-resolution medium. Our natural speaking range does fall within the domain of the piano, but it's constrained to 88 equally tempered keys, and is unable to reproduce microtones, or notes in between the notes, which humans so frequently speak at. We're also working with hammers and strings here, so timbrally speaking, a piano is pretty much always going to sound like a piano. But let's not let that stop us, because one thing humans are really good at is pattern recognition. The patterns come in the form of sine wave speech, which is artificially degraded speech developed at Yale University. Its goal is to strip down elements of the voice in order to determine the minimum amount of data needed for speech to still be intelligible. As it turns out, the minimum amount of data we need to be able to comprehend speech is able to be reproduced on a piano despite its low resolution. With Fourier analysis, we can map that data with sine and cosine waves. Convert it to MIDI, where all that microtonal stuff gets snapped to notes the piano has access to. Hook up a player piano system or open up a DAW, because no human can actually play this, and we've arrived at being able to synthesize human speech on a piano. Synthesize human speech on a piano.
Dude, did you know that the speed of light could circle the globe 7 times in 1 second? Damn, what else? The speed of light also goes from the moon to the earth in 1 second. Wow! Go on? Yeah. Light goes from the sun to the earth in 8 minutes. Whoa, so we're seeing the sun as it was 8 minutes ago? More. It goes from planet Uranus to Earth in 2 hours. Continue. And then from planet Neptune in 4 hours? Damn, it actually takes light forever to get to us from there. Yeah, bro, the speed of light's the fastest thing in the universe, but the universe is an enormous place. I mean, how long do you think it takes light to get to us from the closest star to the sun? Jeez, a few weeks maybe? Yeah, try over 4 years. Oh my god. Yeah, light speed covers about 6 trillion miles in 1 year, so rather than saying that Proxima Centauri is 24 trillion miles away, we just say that it's 4 light years away. A light year being the distance that light travels in 1 year. Wow. And you know, since light has this finite speed, we can only see things in space as they were in the past because light takes time to reach us. So when we look at Proxima Centauri, we're seeing it as it was 4 years ago, not as it is now. Alright, so you said that's the closest star to the sun? Didn't I read somewhere that there's like 1 million stars in our galaxy? Yeah, I mean more like 400 billion, but I'm having an existential crisis right now. Those are fun. Yeah, so the Milky Way is a pretty big galaxy. It's 100,000 light years side to side, so, you know, it's pretty crazy. The fastest thing in existence, light, still takes 100,000 years to get to the opposite side of the galaxy. I'm leaving. Well, hold on, we haven't even talked about the distance to other galaxies yet. There's hundreds of billions of those too. Shut up!
What if I told you that you owe your entire existence to this shiny mineral right here? Let me explain. So it is now pretty widely accepted that minerals played an essential role at the origin of life. And as somebody researching the origin of life, I figured I would show you 4 minerals that I use in my origin of life research and why I use them. First is the one I just showed you, pyrite, or fool's gold. Here's another sample here. So pyrite is an iron sulfide mineral. It's made of repeating atoms of iron and sulfur, and it has this really distinctive shiny metallic luster and this really cool square shape. Now, pyrite is thought to have been very abundant on the early Earth, and on top of that, it can catalyze some key biologically relevant reactions. In fact, a lot of the conserved enzymes used in biology today are actually just pyrite or iron sulfur clusters wrapped in protein. And because of that, it's thought that pyrite may have played a role at the origin of life in jump-starting some key reactions in the absence of complex enzymes. Next up is calcite, or calcium carbonate. Now, calcite is cool because we know that some organic molecules, like life's building blocks, can actually stick to calcite. And the way they do so might explain one of life's key properties, which is its homochirality. Chirality refers to the fact that some molecules, like amino acids, have mirror images that aren't superimposable. And biochemistry, interestingly, only uses one mirror image. So in the case of amino acids, it uses the left-hand image. And why it does that is kind of a mystery, because both mirror images exist in nature. And it's thought that perhaps something like calcite, which preferentially sticks to the left-handed amino acids rather than the right-handed ones, could be an explanation. Next up is apatite, which is this pretty blue mineral that contains phosphate. Now, phosphates and phosphorus are really important for our biochemistry, but how they became incorporated into our biochemistry is somewhat of a mystery, because we know that there wasn't a lot of it around on the early Earth. And we call this the phosphate problem in the origin of life. And it's thought that phosphate-bearing minerals like this one, under certain conditions, might have released that phosphate and made it available for downstream chemistry. And last but not least are clays, and I have one here called chlorite. Now, I know it doesn't look super interesting, but this is actually a pretty remarkable mineral. And when you look up close, you can see that clays have this very distinctive sheet-like structure, and we know that organic molecules, including the building blocks of life, can stick to these sheets, and those sheets can also contain metal ions that can catalyze reactions between these organics. So it's thought that these layers might have provided the ideal habitat for the origin of life. And that's it. Bet you'll never look at minerals the same way again.